Hello world, it is Monday, March 8th, 2021. Beautiful sunny day this morning. And I understand it's going to be quite nice temperature-wise in the 60s, but later. It's about 30, low 30s, I think, when I got up this morning to go running. But a beautiful, gorgeous day outside. Might be a good chance to get outside and get some more vitamin D and just wander around. The devotion for today is entitled Whispers, written by Rachel Hackenberg. And Rachel bases the devotion upon Psalm 81, verses 5b through 7a. I hear a voice I had not known. I relieved your shoulder a burden, your hands were freed from the basket. In distress you called, and I rescued you. And Rachel writes, I've never felt close to God in a personal buddy-buddy kind of way. It's never been my spiritual practice to call up Jesus in prayer like we're BFFs, best friends forever, who need to ponder every personal detail together, from hairstyles to romance. Maybe it's due to my upbringing in an evangelical and reformed UCC congregation with its formal worship, its elevated altar, not a communion table. It's hazy white docile behind which I assumed as a child that God might dwell. Maybe it's due to my personality type. Certainly it's an aspect of my theology. I'm particularly fond of God's mystery and grandeur. I'm less keen on God whispering sweet nothings in my ear. In any event, God has always been distant to me. To hear the voice of God, the actual disembodied voice of God, would be to hear a voice that I do not recognize. Sometimes this spiritual distance with God seems unorthodox. Across this theological span of a modern American Christianity, closeness with God is prevalent and valued. Proximity to Jesus will save us. Proximity to justice will save us. Those of us with a theology of God's aloofness and those of us experiencing a season of spiritual dryness can be tempted to doubt that we can be saved across the distance. If proximity is necessary for salvation, we find ourselves thinking, we may never be delivered. And yet there it is in Psalm 81, the assurance that deliverance can come through an unknown voice, justice can pour out from a well we didn't dig, relief can be given by a stranger. And the prayer. Thank you, God, that deliverance comes even when it is unknown and far away. A couple things this devotion reminds me of is I can't think of the biblical passage offhand, but it talks about basically being aware of who you may be treating in a certain way, because you may be entertaining angels without knowing it. And it kind of reminds me of a show I used to watch on television, and the name just escaped me. Joan of Arcadia, which God appeared to talk to Joan and various people, and very unlikely people, you would think. But if you really read the Bible, probably not. But you never know where God's presence is going to be. And just when we feel the most distant, God may actually be there. You may actually be the living presence of God for someone when they most need it. So anyway, that's kind of what this devotion was reminding me of as I read it. I'm not into the personal relationship with Jesus. That's not my theology. But I do think that having personal relationships with others puts me in relationship with God. And it goes right back for me to the two greatest commandments that Jesus talked about, loving God with your entire being and loving your neighbor as yourself. It's a lot packed into those two commandments. Anyway, I hope you have a good day. Hope you have a chance to enjoy some of this brief glimpse of spring weather that's coming today, because I think a couple days of relatively warm weather in the 60s and then back down into the 40s for a few days. But we're trending upward. So have a good day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.